The Refinement of Character by Al-Jahiz.
Translated by the LWR Project.
Introduction. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, all praise is due to God, Lord of the worlds. Know that among all animals, the human being alone is endowed with thought and discernment. He is always inclined toward what is best among things, most noble among ranks, and most precious among possessions, so long as he does not forsake his faculty of discernment in his choices, nor is overpowered by his desires in pursuing his aims. The most worthy thing a human can choose for himself, without halting short of its ultimate goal or being content with anything less than complete fulfillment, is the cultivation of noble and beautiful character and purification from its vices and defects. In all his conditions, he must strive to dwell among virtues and avoid all paths of vice in his actions. If that is the case, then it becomes an obligation upon the human being to make it his aim to acquire every trait that is sound and free from blemish, and to focus his efforts on attaining every noble quality untainted by flaw. He must exert himself to avoid every disliked and blameworthy trait, and do all he can to rid himself of every low and despicable one, until he attains perfection through refining his character, adorns himself with the garments of beauty through the nobility of his traits, rightfully takes pride among people of honor and virtue, and reaches the highest peaks of distinction and glory. Yet the one beginning to pursue this station, seeking to attain this rank, may sometimes be unaware of the praiseworthy traits that he ought to seek, and unable to distinguish them from the blameworthy ones he must avoid. Because of that, it is necessary for us to speak on character, clarifying what character is and what its source is, how many types and categories it includes, and which of them are commendable, those for which the possessor is admired and the one who embodies them is envied, and which of them are excluded, those whose doer is condemned and whose bearer is scorned. This may guide those of lofty ambition who aim to compete with the virtuous, and those of noble spirit who spurn the ways of the base and the deficient. We will also point out the way to train oneself in the praiseworthy kinds of character and practice them, and the way to steer clear of and avoid the blameworthy kinds until they become second nature, habitual, instinctive, and ingrained, so that even those raised upon bad character and familiar with corrupt habits may find a guide. We will also describe the complete human being, refined in character, encompassing all moral virtues, and the path by which he attains such completeness and preserves it, so that anyone who longs for the highest rank may yearn for his likeness, and those aspiring to the utmost station may desire to follow his way. Perhaps as well, what we mention may awaken someone who has faults that are hidden from him, though he believes himself to be in a state of perfection. For one in such a condition, the repeated mention of blameworthy traits may stir awareness of what he contains, causing him to recoil from them and strive to leave them behind and rise above them. Likewise, if someone who possesses most of the praiseworthy traits yet lacks some of them reflects upon them, he may feel drawn to acquire those few that are missing and long to attain them all. Even one already complete and perfected may benefit from what we mention. For the refined and accomplished, one who is adorned with virtues and endowed with moral beauty, when he hears the mention of noble traits and priceless virtues, and finds that these match his own habits and qualities, he experiences a wondrous delight and a joyful pleasure, just as the one who is praised rejoices when his virtues are mentioned and his merits are broadcast. Also, if he finds his character recorded in books, described with goodness, that will drive him to maintain his path and persist in his practice. So now, we begin our discussion on character, and we say, Chapter 1. On the definition of character, its types, and its relation to the soul. Character, khuluq, is a condition of the soul by which a person performs actions without reflection or conscious choice. Character may in some people be natural and innate, while in others it is only acquired through discipline and effort. Generosity, for example, may be found in many people without training or practice, just like courage, forbearance, chastity, justice, and other praiseworthy traits. Many people possess such traits, some by nature, others through discipline, while others remain as they are, continuing in their established ways. Blameworthy traits. As for blameworthy traits, they are found in many people, such as stinginess, cowardice, injustice, and irritability. These dispositions dominate most people and control them. Rare indeed is the person who is free from every blameworthy trait and safe from all defects. But even so, people differ in the degree to which they are affected. Likewise, people differ in their possession of praiseworthy traits. Those naturally disposed to noble character are very few. As for those repelled by such traits, they are even rarer. Those naturally inclined toward evil character are the majority. This is because evil tendencies are dominant in human nature. When a person yields to their nature without using thought, discernment, modesty, or restraint, their traits resemble those of beasts. What distinguishes a human from beasts is thought and discernment. When these are neglected, one shares in the behaviors of animals, overrun by lusts, lacking shame, prone to anger, devoid of calm, driven by greed and indulgence, and perpetually ravenous. Thus people are naturally inclined toward base character and lowly desires. This is why humanity needed divinely revealed laws, sacred traditions, and sound political governance. The benefit of just rulers is immense, for they restrain the oppressor, stop the usurper, punish the immoral, and discipline the transgressor so that he returns to balance in his affairs. Discernment and blameworthy character. Blameworthy traits are present in human nature. Among people, some openly display and embrace them. These are the worst of people. Others are awakened, through sound thinking and strong discernment, to their ugliness, and avoid them, due to a noble soul and refined temperament. Some do not initially recognize their faults, but when made aware of them, they acknowledge their ugliness, and perhaps even praise themselves for abandoning them. Others, once awakened to their flaws or alerted to them, may wish to change, but find themselves unable to do so. Their nature resists even when they desire change and strive for it. These need guidance and training to gradually adopt good traits. There are also those who, when made aware of their ugly traits, feel no desire to abandon them, nor are their souls willing to part with them. Rather, they persist in them knowingly. Such people cannot be refined except through coercion, fear, and punishment, if mere warning does not suffice. As for praiseworthy traits, even if innate in some, they are not natural to all, yet many can attain them through practice, training, and habit. However, some people's natures are unreceptive to good traits and noble character, due to the vileness of their essence and corruption of their origin. These belong to the group of evildoers with no hope of reform. Many people may accept some noble traits while rejecting others. Such a person is not necessarily evil, but his degree of goodness is according to the virtues he possesses. The soul's role in shaping character. The root cause of differences in people's character is the soul itself, which has three faculties, also called three souls. The appetitive soul, al-nafs, al-shahwaniyah. The irascible soul, al-nafs, al-ghadabiyah. The rational soul, al-nafs, al-natiqah. All character traits stem from these three. Some traits originate from one faculty alone, some from two combined, and some from all three. Some of these faculties exist in both humans and animals, while others are exclusive to humans. 1. The appetitive soul. This soul is shared between humans and animals. It is the source of physical pleasures and bodily desires, like craving food, drink, and sexual relations. This soul is very strong. If a person does not subdue and discipline it, it will overpower and control him. Once that happens, it is extremely difficult to refine or suppress. If the appetitive soul gains dominance, the person becomes more like a beast than a human. His concerns and aspirations are focused entirely on pleasure. Such a person becomes shameless, reckless, alienated from people of virtue, prefers solitude, avoids noble gatherings, dislikes scholars, despises the devout, befriends the corrupt, and delights in immoral talk and company. He becomes frivolous, addicted to entertainment, and may fall into sin and transgression, even committing forbidden acts. Sometimes, love of pleasure leads him to seek wealth by the vilest means, possibly resorting to theft, treachery, or seizing what is not his. For pleasures require wealth and indulgence. If he cannot attain money legitimately, his desire may push him to acquire it unlawfully. Whoever reaches this extreme is among the worst of people, dangerous and frightening, better avoided. Those in authority must restrain and discipline them, isolate and exile them, for their presence among others, especially the young, is corrupting. Youth are impressionable and naturally inclined toward pleasure. If they witness others indulging, they will be drawn to imitate them. Subduing the appetitive soul. But the one who conquers his appetitive soul and controls it will be chaste, restrained, respectful of boundaries, and praised in all matters of desire. The reason people differ in their desires, some chaste, others immoral, is the differing conditions of the appetitive soul. If it is refined and disciplined, its owner is chaste and controlled. If it is neglected and dominant, its owner is corrupt. If it is in between, then the person's chastity reflects that. Therefore, it is necessary to train and refine the appetitive soul until it becomes obedient, used only for necessary needs and restrained from lowly pleasures and obscene indulgences. 2. The irascible soul. This soul, too, is shared between humans and animals. It governs anger, boldness, and the love of dominance. This soul is even stronger than the appetitive one and more harmful if it dominates. If a person yields to it, he becomes easily angered, reckless, vengeful, impatient, aggressive, hasty to retaliate, and excessively punitive. He may curse and abuse others with vile language. If these habits persist, he becomes more like a predator than a human. He may take up arms, commit acts of violence, even against friends, family, and servants, over trivial matters. If he cannot retaliate against the one who angered him, he turns the harm onto himself, striking his face, tearing his beard, biting his hand, cursing himself and his honor. Consequences of the irascible soul. One dominated by this soul seeks to overpower others, is hostile, and seeks leadership unjustly. If he cannot gain power rightfully, he resorts to deceit and evil. This leads him to danger, for whoever attacks others will be attacked, and whoever wrongs others will be wronged. Such a person may fall into envy, rudeness, shamelessness, stubbornness, and injustice. His desire for dominance may drive him to seize wealth unlawfully, even to murder, and often without reflection, leading to destruction and ruin. Subduing the irascible soul. But whoever conquers this soul becomes forbearing, dignified, and just. The cause of people's differences in anger, composure, and judgment lies in the state of this soul. If it is subdued, the person is calm and dignified. If uncontrolled, he becomes angry, foolish, and unjust. If balanced, he has a moderate share of forbearance and restraint. This is why one must discipline the irascible soul to use it properly, for it also has virtues, a sense of honor, noble ambition, and pursuit of high ranks are all from this soul. When refined, it can elevate a person through noble pursuits and deter him from disgrace. 3. The rational soul. This soul is unique to humans. It is the seat of thought, memory, discernment, and understanding. By it, the human is honored, his aspirations elevated, and his self-worth realized. Through it, one recognizes beauty and ugliness, and it allows mastery over the other two souls. It enables reflection on consequences, prompting one to act wisely from the beginning. Virtues of the rational soul. Its virtues include acquiring knowledge and etiquette, or abstaining from immorality, governing the other souls, managing life with dignity, encouraging good, affection, sincerity, modesty, worship, chastity, and pursuing rightful leadership. Vices of the rational soul. Its vices are cunning, deceit, flattery, trickery, envy, quarrelsomeness, and hypocrisy. All people possess this soul, but in some, its virtues prevail, while in others, its vices dominate. In many, both are present, and these traits may become second nature. Those innately virtuous possess strong rational souls and noble origins. Those innately vicious have weak intellects and corrupt essence. Those with both virtues and vices have average souls. Most people acquire their traits through upbringing, based on their environment, companions, and the influential figures around them. A child adopts the traits of parents, family, and those they observe. If surrounded by people of vile character, the child becomes like them. If he admires and imitates noble people, he develops noble character. If he imitates corrupt leaders, he becomes corrupt himself. This describes most people. Ignorance, evil, envy, greed, and wickedness dominate. People naturally imitate one another. Followers mimic their leaders. If the leaders are evil and ignorant, their followers are likewise. Conclusion. The root cause of people's differences in behavior, politics, and virtue is the strength of their rational soul. When it is virtuous and dominant over the others, the person is righteous and just. If it is vile and neglectful, the person becomes corrupt and ignorant. Therefore, one must exercise thought refine his character, adopt what is good and beautiful, abandon what is ugly and repulsive, strive to resemble the virtuous, and avoid the ways of the wicked. Or by doing so, he truly fulfills his humanity and becomes worthy of true leadership. Chapter 2. Types and Categories of Character Traits. As for the types and categories of character, those that are commendable and praiseworthy, considered virtues, and those that are blameworthy and undesirable, considered faults and flaws, they are as follows. 1. Virtuous traits. 1. Chastity, Ifa. Chastity is restraining the self from desires, compelling it to be content with what sustains the body and preserves its health, while avoiding excess and deficiency in pleasures. It is to adhere to moderation and to limit one's indulgence in desires to what is universally deemed appropriate, only at times of necessity and in a quantity that is neither more nor less than what is needed. This state is the pinnacle of chastity. 2. Contentment, Qana'ah. Contentment is settling for whatever livelihood is easily accessible, being pleased with modest living, and abstaining from greed for wealth or pursuit of high rank, even if one desires and favors these things inwardly. It is to subdue the soul and be satisfied with little. This trait is admired among the common folk, but not among kings and great leaders, for it is not deemed a virtue for them. 3rd modesty, Tasawwun. Modesty is self-restraint from vulgarity. It includes avoiding indecent jesting, foul company, and obscene speech, especially in dignified gatherings. It also involves avoiding lowly people, undignified occupations, begging from the base, unnecessary public exposure, and frequenting marketplaces without need. The most honorable person is the one whose name is known, but whose presence is discreet. 4. Forbearance, Hilm. Forbearance is withholding retaliation during intense anger, despite the ability to act. It is praiseworthy so long as it doesn't compromise one's authority or disrupt governance. It is especially fitting for rulers who have greater power to retaliate. A child's restraint toward an elder, if out of fear, is not considered true forbearance. 5. Dignity, Waqa. Dignity is refraining from idle talk and movements, avoiding unnecessary gestures, maintaining calm, listening attentively, pausing before responding, and avoiding rashness or haste in all matters. 6. Modesty, Haya. A form of dignity, modesty is lowering the gaze and refraining from speech out of shyness and respect. It is praiseworthy unless it stems from incompetence or weakness. 7. Affection, Wud. Affection is moderate love, free from lust. It is commendable when shown toward people of virtue and dignity, and blameworthy when directed toward the base, frivolous, or immoral. The best affection is mutual and based on shared virtue, not on jokes or fleeting pleasures. 8. Compassion, Rahmah. Compassion is a mix of affection and distress. It arises when witnessing someone in a state of deficiency or suffering. It is admirable unless it leads to injustice, such as pardoning a killer or sparing a criminal when justice is due. 9. Loyalty, Wafa. Loyalty is honoring one's word, even at personal cost. True loyalty requires enduring some harm. The more one suffers to fulfill a promise, the more loyal he is. This trait benefits everyone, but is especially necessary for rulers, as their success depends on trust. 10. Trustworthiness, Amanah. Trustworthiness is refraining from misusing entrusted wealth, honor, or secrets. It includes returning what is entrusted when asked. 11. Keeping secrets. Keeping secrets combines dignity and trust. Revealing secrets is frivolous and a breach of trust. Especially for those near rulers, it can be disastrous. 12. Humility. Tawadu. Humility is the abandonment of pride, avoidance of boasting, and rejection of arrogance. It is only truly found in the great and noble. For the lowly, it is simply their natural state. 13. Cheerfulness. Bisha. Cheerfulness is showing joy upon meeting friends and acquaintances with a smile. It is admirable in all people, especially rulers, as it endears them to their subjects. 14. Truthfulness. Sidku al-Lahja. Truthfulness is describing things as they are. It is commendable unless it causes great harm, like admitting to a crime or revealing someone hiding under one's protection. 15. Sincerity of intent. Salamat al-Niyya. Sincerity is assuming good of others and avoiding deceit. It is commendable, but not always suitable for rulers, who must sometimes employ strategy with enemies. 16. Generosity. Saka. Generosity is giving wealth without being asked or needing to. It is praiseworthy so long as it doesn't become wasteful. For kings, it is an obligation, as stinginess harms their rule. 17. Courage. Shaja. Courage is facing hardship and death when needed. It is admired in all, but essential for rulers and warriors. 18. Healthy competition. Munafasa. This is striving to outdo others in virtue and noble achievements. It is praiseworthy unless it is for vain pleasures or status. 19. Patience in hardship. Sabr inda al-Shada'id. Patience is enduring misfortune calmly when no solution exists. It combines dignity and courage. 20. High ambition. Ism al-Himma. This is aspiring to the highest goals and viewing anything less as insignificant. It includes a noble disdain for lowly things, jealousy in protecting honor, and pride in guarding dignity. It is especially fitting for kings and the ambitious. 21st Justice. Adl. Justice is giving everything its proper place, time, and measure, without excess or deficiency. Second, blameworthy traits. Licentiousness. Fujur. Among the blameworthy traits counted as flaws and defects is fujur, which is the excessive indulgence in desires, an insatiable pursuit of pleasures, persistence in them, committing immoralities, and doing so publicly. In general, it is excessiveness in all forms of lusts. This trait is deeply despised. It ruins one's reputation, strips away dignity, and tears down the veil of modesty. Greed. Shah. Greed is the obsessive desire to acquire wealth and accumulate it, seeking it by any means, even through ugly or unjust methods, along with an eagerness for possessions and hoarding of goods. This is a blameworthy trait for all people, except kings. For in rulers, an abundance of wealth, treasure, and possessions aids in governance, enhances their splendor, and increases their awe in the eyes of subjects, supporters, enemies, and rivals. Vulgarity. Tabadhul. This is the abandonment of propriety, a disregard for decorum, excessive joking and frivolity, mingling with the foolish, attending lowly gatherings of buffoonery, immorality and foul speech, gossiping about people's honor, excessive jesting, idling in markets and street corners, earning through debased means, and being overly humble with the ignoble. This trait is disgraceful in all people. Foolishness, suf. This is the opposite of forbearance. It is hastiness in anger, volatility over minor issues, hastily retaliating against harm, excessive punishment, and displaying great distress at minor harm, coupled with vulgar cursing. This trait is detestable in everyone, but even more so in rulers and leaders. Recklessness, cock. This involves speaking excessively, unnecessary movement, loud laughter, rash action without pause, and impulsive responses. This is shameful in anyone, but especially for scholars and people of intelligence. Shamelessness, chi-ha. A subset of recklessness. Shamelessness is the lack of regard for those who should be respected, and the open expression of obscene and repulsive responses. This trait is especially abominable in people of dignity. Passion, ishq. This is excessive and unrestrained love. It is blameworthy in all circumstances, especially when directed toward carnal pleasures and illicit desire. It often leads to licentiousness, immoral acts, vulgarity, loss of modesty, and bad habits. It is disgraceful for anyone, though less so for the young, the pampered, and the luxurious. Cruelty, kaswa. Cruelty is a compound of hatred and boldness. It is to be indifferent to the pain or harm of others. This is disliked in everyone, except for soldiers and warriors when such severity is appropriately applied. Treachery, garda. This is breaking one's word or reneging on promises and obligations. Even when seemingly beneficial, it is reprehensible, especially for rulers and leaders. A king known for treachery will lose the trust of all, causing the collapse of his rule. Breach of trust, khayana. This includes betraying what one is entrusted with, whether wealth, honor, or women, and laying claim to entrusted possessions or denying having received them. It also includes withholding or distorting important information or altering messages one is trusted to deliver. This trait shames its possessor, ruins reputations, and closes off avenues of livelihood. Revealing secrets. This trait combines recklessness and betrayal. One who cannot hold his tongue or heart is not dignified. Divulging secrets is a breach of trust and is detestable, especially in those who serve rulers or are close to them. Tale-bearing, namima. This is conveying to someone what another has said about them in a hateful manner. It is highly despicable, even if the words weren't originally confidential, because it causes discord and animosity, which is the essence of malice. Arrogance, kibar. This is when a person considers himself superior, esteems his virtues, and looks down upon others. This trait is harmful because arrogance hinders self-improvement and learning. Moreover, it leads people to despise the arrogant, and when people despise you, your condition deteriorates. Frowning, abush. This is constant scowling, reluctance to smile, and displaying displeasure. It stems from arrogance and coarseness. Frowning especially when meeting friends, is a sign of a hard character. It is especially unsightly in dignified and noble individuals. Lying. Tahdhib. Lying is reporting something contrary to reality. It is disliked unless it avoids harm that cannot be avoided otherwise, or brings a necessary benefit that cannot be achieved without it. Lies that serve no great purpose are particularly vile. It is more disgraceful in rulers, as even small faults stain their reputation. Malice. Kubth. This is concealing evil intent while outwardly displaying goodwill, using trickery and deception in dealings. It is despised in all people, except rulers, who may at times need to use it against enemies. However, using it with allies and supporters is blameworthy. Grudge-bearing. Hikud. A form of malice. It is harboring resentment towards someone who wronged you, waiting secretly for a chance to retaliate. This is a trait of the wicked and deeply condemned. Stinginess. Bukhul. This is withholding help or generosity when one is capable of giving. It is blameworthy for all, except that it is less condemned in women, and at times even praised. In all others, especially rulers and nobles, it is loathed. Their stinginess destroys hope, breeds hatred, and undermines authority. Cowardice. Yubun. Cowardice is fear in the face of danger, or refusal to act when consequences are uncertain. It is detested in all people, but in rulers, soldiers, and warriors, it is disastrous. Envy. Hasad. This is feeling pain at the good fortune or virtue of others and striving to remove it from them. It is ugly and condemnable in everyone. Panic. Jaza. This is loss of composure in distress. It stems from recklessness and cowardice and is considered blameworthy when it brings no benefit or resolution. However, if panic leads to seeking help or mobilizing support, then it is not necessarily blameworthy. Low aspiration. Sugrat al-Himma. This is weakness in striving for high ranks, being content with the mediocre, overestimating minor virtues or gifts, and settling for trivial matters. This is disgraceful in all, but in rulers it is even worse. A ruler with low aspiration is unworthy of leadership. Injustice. Jaw. This is the abandonment of balance in all matters, excess or deficiency, taking what one has no right to, demanding undue obligations, acting in wrong times, ways, or measures. Injustice undermines all ethics and systems. Third, traits that are conditional. There are some traits that can be either virtues or vices, depending on the person and situation. Desire for honor. Hub al-Karama. This is the joy in being praised, honored, and admired. It is praiseworthy in youth and children as it encourages them toward virtue. But in mature individuals, especially people of virtue, it is considered a flaw, since they should not crave praise for what is expected of them. Excessive desire for honor becomes akin to flattery, which is deceitful. Love of adornment. Hub al-Zina. This includes fine clothing, riding animals, tools, attendance, and display. It is acceptable for rulers, nobles, charming youth, the pampered, and women. but it is blameworthy in ascetics, scholars, preachers, and religious leaders who are expected to wear simple garments, walk barefoot, frequent mosques, and avoid luxury. Rewarding praise. This is when someone rewards those who praise them publicly. It is commendable in rulers and leaders because it promotes positive speech and helps preserve a good reputation. However, loving to hear praise directly from flatterers is not admired. It belongs to deceit. As for common folk, their desire to reward praise is not praiseworthy, as it often encourages false flattery. Better that they give such gifts to the needy instead. Asceticism. Zuhd. This is a disinterest in wealth and possessions and preferring simplicity and sufficiency. It is highly admirable, especially in scholars, religious leaders, preachers, and those who guide people to the afterlife. But in rulers and nobility, asceticism is considered improper, as their role requires amassing and managing wealth to protect their domain and support their subjects. A ruler who avoids this is deemed deficient and unfit to govern. Chapter 3. On the Path to Noble Character. The traits we previously described encompass the full range of human character. As for the virtuous traits, those considered praiseworthy and noble, it is rare for a single person to possess them all. And as for the blameworthy ones, considered defects and flaws, it is rare to find someone entirely free of them, especially among those who neither examine nor refine themselves. Whoever neglects self-discipline and fails to examine his faults will inevitably harbor many, even if he is unaware of them. Therefore, the most urgent task for a person is to investigate his own character, reflect on his flaws, strive to correct them, adopt virtuous qualities, and habituate himself to them. True superiority among people is determined by their virtues, not as the ignorant and common folk imagine, by wealth, possessions, or social status. Most people boast of their riches, possessions, and luxuries, and admire the wealthy, giving them superiority based on financial abundance. But wealth does not make one's soul superior, only one's material condition. A foolish, immoral man may possess vast wealth, but he is not better than a poor, virtuous man, who is wise and good. Wealth may make him richer, but not more honorable. If noble character is combined with wealth, then indeed, this person's condition is admirable, especially if he spends that wealth rightly, helping the poor, fulfilling obligations, and elevating his moral standing. But for the ignorant and morally deficient, wealth may add to their disgrace. A miser may be excused if poor, but if he is wealthy and still withholds, his miserliness becomes obvious. Wealth, in such a case, reveals his defect. Also, most sins and shameful desires require money to indulge. A poor man with evil inclinations may be restrained only by his lack of means, but once he becomes rich, his sins manifest. So, wealth may increase a person's flaws, just as poverty may conceal them or foster virtues like humility and contentment. Thus, true distinction among people is found in character and virtue, not in wealth or prestige. On refining character. One must govern the self through virtuous discipline, live by an admirable path, and become beloved among people, respected by leaders, and dignified in their eyes. This kind of leadership, earned through virtue, is better than that bought by wealth, for material riches are vulnerable to loss. If a person loses his money, he loses his place among people. But if he is virtuous, his standing endures. The person who governs his own soul, who refines his traits and strives to remove faults, may find this difficult at first. He may want to abandon a bad habit, but struggle. He may aspire to a virtue, but fail to attain it quickly. For this reason, those who seek moral refinement need a method, a gradual, practical path that leads to noble traits and away from blameworthy ones. We've already explained that the difference in people's character stems from the dominance of one of the three faculties of the soul: the appetitive, irascible, and rational. The key to virtuous character is to tame the appetitive and irascible souls, and to strengthen the rational one. Training the appetitive soul. To discipline the appetitive soul, one must consciously replace base desires with their noble counterparts. For example, when craving something excessive, choose a moderate form of that same desire. Doing this repeatedly diminishes the strength of lust. Surround yourself with ascetics, devout individuals, and scholars, especially religious ones who value chastity and look down upon licentiousness. Their company will pressure you to adopt modesty and self-restraint. Read books on ethics and the biographies of the righteous. Avoid immoral gatherings and people obsessed with pleasure and indulgence, especially those who glorify drinking, as intoxication arouses both the appetitive and irascible soul, stripping away reason. Even being present in such gatherings is dangerous, for desire often overrides restraint in such settings, and one may fall into shamelessness after long-standing modesty. On music and sensory temptation. Music, particularly performed by young women seeking attention, is a major trigger for desire. The wise person should avoid such situations. If one must listen, let it be from those who don't provoke temptation, and even then, only rarely. On food. The purpose of food is to alleviate hunger. Whether it is simple or luxurious, both satisfy. One should eat in moderation, based on habit and necessity, not out of indulgence. Gluttony is less disgraceful than lust or promiscuity, but still a vice. When craving a particular food, consume something similar to appease the appetite. Always be aware of the shame and disgrace that accompany indulgence in base pleasures. Let the praise of chastity and the beauty of restraint motivate you to avoid excess. Training the irascible soul. To subdue the irascible soul, reflect on the behavior of angry fools and the shame they bring upon themselves through insults and abuse. Recall how you've seen such conduct from others and felt repulsed. Ask yourself, what if I were the one who made the mistake? What would I deserve? This will moderate your reaction. Practice this consistently, and it will become your nature. Avoid weapons, riotous gatherings, violent environments, and the company of hot-tempered people. Instead, spend time with scholars, the wise, and the dignified. Intoxication also greatly stimulates anger, often more than lust. It leads to insults, aggression, and shameful behavior. So abstaining entirely is the safest course. The role of the rational soul. The rational soul is the instrument of moral refinement. If it is strong, it can govern the other two and lead one to virtue. Its strength comes from studying philosophy, ethics, and truth, especially deeper intellectual sciences. Reading and contemplating ethical writings awaken the rational soul, allowing it to perceive noble character and detest its opposite. Frequenting scholars and living according to wisdom strengthens one's self-control. Once refined, the rational soul naturally leans toward what is beautiful and upright, making good character easy and desirable. The foundation of all refinement. So, the essence of moral training is the strengthening of the rational soul, which in turn governs the appetitive and irascible forces. This is the key to all noble behavior. If a person cannot study philosophy deeply, let him reflect carefully, think deeply, and compare his habits to those of the virtuous. Let him weigh benefits and consequences. He will find that sinful pleasures are fleeting, while their shame endures. Rage might satisfy in the moment, but leaves behind regret, punishment, or disgrace. Likewise, envy, malice, and treachery never bring lasting benefit, only ruin and resentment from others. The person who reflects sincerely will soon see the worthlessness of these vices. Pursuing moral excellence. Let anyone seeking virtue aim for the highest level of each quality. Settling for mediocrity risks falling short altogether. If someone disciplines himself consistently and adheres to this method, his virtues will become second nature, and he will ascend toward the character of the truly noble. Chapter 4. The Portrait of the Ideal Person. What remains is to describe the complete human being who combines all virtues and avoids all vices. Few attain this state. One who reaches it resembles angels more than men. Yet though perfection is rare, it is possible. With true effort and resolve, anyone may draw near to it. 1. Self-awareness. The ideal person is constantly inspecting his own character, alert to flaws, determined to avoid them, and always striving for excellence. 2. Constant learning. His path to perfection is through knowledge, studying truths, causes, and ultimate ends. He continually seeks what lies beyond his current knowledge. He reads books on ethics and politics, studies eloquence and speech, attends scholarly gatherings, and emulates the wise. If he is a ruler, he surrounds himself with scholars and virtuous companions and seeks joy in their conversations on knowledge and governance. 3. Moderation in desires. He sets clear boundaries for his desires, always remaining moderate and avoiding extravagance. He avoids indulgent company and views lust as an open enemy. He resists its urges, trains his soul, and gradually overcomes its pull. 4. Abandoning low pleasures. He knows that as long as pleasure is seen as good, perfection is unreachable. This is hardest for rulers, who are most surrounded by temptation. But a noble ruler who seeks true kingship will be motivated to abandon such base indulgences. 5. Practicing generosity. He is generous with food and drink, not eating alone, but sharing with companions and the poor, without boasting or making others feel indebted. 6. Disregarding wealth. He sees wealth as a means, not an end, and doesn't obsess over its accumulation. 7. Wise use of wealth. He earns money justly and spends it wisely, balancing his needs, supporting others, and investing in what has lasting value. Rulers especially must give generously to the learned, the poor, and the pious. 8. Restraining. Anger. He regards an angry person as no better than an animal. If insulted by a fool, he remains calm, recognizing the other's lack of reason. 9. Loving people. He cultivates love, compassion, and kindness toward all people. Recognizing that all humans share the rational soul, he sees them as one family. 10. Loving goodness. He makes doing good a habit, avoids evil entirely, and pursues his aims by righteous means. Even when harmed, he seeks just retribution, not out of hatred, but for the greater good. 11. Avoiding sin publicly and privately. He assumes that no sin is truly hidden. People naturally discover others' flaws and magnify them. Therefore, the wise person avoids vice completely, both in secret and in public. 12. Total avoidance of flaws. Perfection demands avoiding all vices and embracing all virtues. This is the peak of humanity, and everyone must strive toward it, especially rulers. For a noble king to be morally flawed is an ugly contradiction. A truly perfect king leads by his character, not by force. If he aims for perfection, his first step is to adopt high ambition, viewing every virtue as essential and every vice as intolerable. The wise ruler must detest flattery, seek honest counsel, and reward those who inform him of his flaws more than those who merely praise him. If he consistently pursues virtue, demands the highest standard from himself, and governs his character as diligently as his kingdom, he will achieve true greatness, and his legacy will be eternal.